Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. This is a short 10 minutes video where I am going to discuss the diagnostic criteria which are a must know for all final year students of BHMS, BAMS, etc. and also for the house staff and interns so that they can diagnose and which will be better for them in future. So, first we are going to discuss the diagnostic criteria for diabetes mellitus. First thing is that the symptoms of diabetes has to be there. The patient should have the symptoms of diabetes. What is a symptom of diabetes? That is 1P. P stands for polydipsia. That is the patient will have intense thirst. He or she will wish to drink water many times, intense thirst. Then there is polyphagia. This P stands for intense food intake. The patient is very hungry always. Okay. The next P is for polyuria. That is frequent urination. So all this P has to be there as a symptom of diabetes. And if you get a positive family history in the patient, then that will be like a cherry on the cake. Okay. The next point that is the most important is random blood glucose concentration. It has to be more than 200 mg per dl. Random, this word random means that there is no relation without relation to the time since last food intake. Okay, so if the patient has come to you after taking food, he has taken suppose food last 4 or 5 hours before, so you can go for this test and you can see whether it's more than 200 or not. If it is more than 200 mg per dl, that means the patient is diabetic. Next point is that patient is having the symptoms of diabetic and fasting plasma glucose. I think fasting blood sugar, everybody knows what is it. This is only the fasting plasma glucose, which turns out to be, if it turns out to be more than 126 mg per dl, then also the patient is diabetic. Okay, so before I move on to the third point, I want you all to imagine a situation. Suppose you are all sitting in an OPD where you get a patient. You're putting on apron and stethoscope and you're sitting in an OPD, and suppose you get a patient who has the symptoms of diabetes as discussed earlier, and if you see the blood report is showing random blood glucose concentration is less than 200 mg per dl. Suppose the random blood glucose concentration is 163. Okay. Next, you find that plasma glucose, fasting plasma glucose is more than 126. Suppose it is 150. So this is a dummy case, but I want you all to understand the diagnostic criteria properly. Random blood glucose in this case is more than, it's less than 200, that is 163. That means the patient is not diabetic. Of course, the patient is having the symptoms of diabetic, but this is suggesting random blood glucose less than 200, suggesting that the patient is not diabetic. Now again, in the same patient, you see the blood test report is showing the fasting blood sugar is more than 126. Understood? So if it is more than 126, then isn't it a paradox? Because the fasting blood plasma glucose is showing you that the patient is having diabetes, whereas the random blood glucose concentration is suggesting just the opposite. So then what you should do? Then you should go for oral glucose tolerance test. Okay, that is 2 hours plasma glucose. That is after the food intake, the test that you do after 2 hours, that is only OGTT or oral glucose tolerance test. That has to be more than 200 mg per dl. So simply, if you get fasting more than 126, do not diagnose the patient as diabetic if the random glucose in the same patient is less than 200. Please go for OGTT If that turns out to be more than 200 mg per dl, then your patient is of course diabetic. But coming to the fourth point, which is in fact the best diagnostic criteria, as you can see, that is HbA1c. That is, if it is more than 6.5, then you can very well say that the patient is diabetic, and it is in fact HbA1c is in fact the most important. Why? Because it is giving you a long-term assessment of glucose control. It is the glycated hemoglobin. Now, the question is, what is the meaning of this word glycation? What does the word glycation mean? For that, little knowledge of biochemistry is important. Glycation or glycosylation is a process. It is basically a process in which a sugar molecule is attached to a protein molecule. In this case, a sugar molecule will be attached to the hemoglobin, and one RBC will survive. We all know that it will survive for at least 120 days. So you can check the long term for 120 days, that is approximately 3 to 4 months. So you can see whether the patient has taken the medicines properly, whether he has followed your instructions properly or not, because simply by exercising or taking proper diet and medicines within 1 or 2 weeks prior to the visit to a doctor will not normalize the HbA1c. In that case, the patient may have normal fasting plasma glucose, may have a normal OGTT even, or a random glucose also may be normal. But HbA1c will never be normalized by simply exercising or like taking proper medicine just after 1 or 2 weeks prior to the doctor's visit. Okay. Now let us move on to the next diagnostic criteria, that is for hypertension. This is revised according to AHA, that is American Heart Association 2017 revised categories. So normal BP, it is less than 120 mmHg, and it is 80 mmHg, that is SBP, systolic blood pressure, is less than 120 mmHg, and diastolic blood pressure is less than 80 mmHg. What is elevated blood pressure? Elevated blood pressure means the patient is not hypertensive. Please remember, elevated means the patient is not hypertensive. The range you see, systolic blood pressure ranges 120 to 129 mmHg, and diastolic blood pressure less than 80 mmHg. So both these criteria should be there to call it as an elevated BP. It is not hypertension. Next category we have is hypertension. We have two stages, stage 1 and we have stage 2. Stage 1 has systolic blood pressure ranging from 130 to 139 mmHg or 80 to 89 mmHg diastolic blood pressure. So if anyone is there, you can call it stage 1 diabetic. But simply in one visit you cannot label a patient to be hypertensive. At least 4 visits has to be there, and if consequently the blood pressure remains to be elevated in or raised in all the 4 visits, then you can label the patient as hypertensive. Coming to stage 2. Stage 2 says if the systolic blood pressure is more than 140, more than equal to 140 mmHg, and on the other side you see that diastolic blood pressure is more than 90 mmHg, then in this condition we can label the patient as stage 2 hypertensive patient. Anyone has to be there, anyone can be there. Okay, it can be the diastolic blood pressure can be more than 90 mmHg, and if the systolic is not more than 140, then also we can label it as stage 2 hypertensive. And if systolic blood pressure is not satisfying the criteria and the diastolic blood pressure is not, then also you can label the patient as stage 2 hypertensive. So this was basically the Diagnostic criteria according to American Heart Association 2017 revised categories. Okay. Now what is a target BP? That is a BP that is to be achieved so that the patient can live or the person can live a normal healthy life. This is for those patients who are having hypertension, that is both stage 1 and stage 2. Okay. So what is that BP? That the patient should have less than 130 by 80 mm Hg. This is a target BP, that is a target achievement. So one who is having more than that should try to normalize it or should try to at least achieve this goal. Okay, thank you. That's all for today. Please like, share and subscribe my channel if you like it, and I'll come up with more videos. Okay, so thank you.